Welcome back. As we said earlier that in our second segment we are going to talk about the history of Egypt State Television, which began its transmission in 1960. We'll also try to face attempts to distort its image and undermine its role. And to shed more light on this issue, we are delighted to be joined here in the studio with Mr. Amir Nabil, Managing Editor of MENA, or Middle East News Agency. Good morning, Mr. Amir.
Good morning.
Good morning. What would you like to start off with? The president's speech yesterday, or the multiple attacks that are targeting the Egyptian media right now, and especially Maspero? Instead of being the other way around, they are, targeting attacks at Maspero. Which one would you like to?
I think the most recent one is the president's speech about criticizing some media people, media person, talk show anchors and so on in the private-owned channels especially. Some of them tried to make the despair spirit for the people and to break up or break down the spirit of the people. They have to encourage the Egyptian citizens to encourage their state, to encourage the state television. The president tried to tell them a message that they have to appear their own responsibility about to help the efforts made by the government, made by the president himself, to make the people better at this very sensitive era and period of time. The other one is the attack on the Maspero and the attack on the history of every Egyptian actually. Every Egyptian feels that Maspero and the Egyptian television is owned by himself. It is for every Egyptian citizen. We all of us grew up on the films of the television and the series and soap opera and all of these production of the Egyptian television. Actually, it is very important for every citizen. Now we are attacking about this because there is some weakness point about the Egyptian television. We have to help this big institution to retain or come back to the past, the very strong past about this Egyptian television. We have all of them have to help this institution and this big organization not to despair, more despair and more make about the people attack it again.
So, sir, going back to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's speech, we caught him. He said that these media or private media hosts crossed all the lines. So, adding that the media sector is criticizing everybody. So, why these private media hosts are trying to spread this feeling of frustration among Egyptians at this critical stage of Egypt's history?
I think it is a matter of national security for every citizen, for every Egyptian, that we have to feel hope about the future. While it is a lot of difficulties, we are living in a lot of difficulties, in economic difficulties, and in spite of that, we're trying to work and trying to produce some of these sectors, try to have its own success story. But at the same time, some other media houses and media channels from the businessmen, some of them are making for their own interests. I think we have to be frank about that. They are making profits for their own channels to make some very sensitive message. They tell the people something like 1 year ago that we have all Egyptians and try to help the society to make it successful in the future, and we have to help the economy and help for more projects and so on. Now they are not making not fulfill their promise about that. They are trying to make despair, something like that, and frustration about the people, about the future during the election campaign and during the election voting, trying to tell the people come and participate, and in spite of that, the people didn't hear about these media persons, and a lot of voting polling stations were very empty. So some of their words are not heard by the people. They are not confident about them. They are not trusting about the media people. In spite of that, they are trusting President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi when he told them about his own message. But the media made a good role at that time, at some time, during the 30th of June revolution, during the make the people come and help each other for the society, one or more 1 year ago. Now there's something like they are not fulfilling their promise about that.
Right. What happened to the code of ethics, and what happened to the credibility and the media message? I mean, historical message that is supposed to reach to people. Nowadays, we find that important programs with content that are supposed to be full of good content by good media people or by good presenters are replaced with programs by artists or by celebrities or by ballet dancers, for example, that tend to be more commercial, and that's becoming the general type in the private-owned media. So how can that be regulated, especially that there is a law and there is a code of ethics and things to be respected? Why isn't that regulated?
I think code of ethics is not something like theoretical. There is no code of ethics for the media. I think for the journalism industry, for instance, and the syndicate, they are trying to make some kind of code of ethics, but still, but yet until now there is no code of ethics. So it is ethics of the society and ethics of the profession itself and ethics of the people who learned us or taught us about what is supposed to be the right thing in the journalism and media and something. About the content and the traffic, YouTube and the traffic, and how many people are viewed something like a program or a different one or so. There's some kind of competition between the businessmen channels to have more and more viewers, and then after that the advertisement and so on. Some of these channel owners are owning at the same time some agencies for the advertising, so they are controlling the market about the advertising. At the same time, Maspiro and had in the past had some agencies about Sot al-Qahira or so on, Cairo Voice and company, trying to make advertising and trying to produce some works. Now I think there's some very good experiment we have to learn about the BBC in London. Every people and every house in London, from households, they are taking something like a share and something like a subscription. So it is financed by the homes, by the households of London. We have to make something like a model about how to finance the Maspiro and how to finance the Egyptian television to come back to its strengthening point and to make better and better programs and to make it better. I think before revolution, 25th of January, there was some kind of model to finance or to make more and more money for the Egyptian television, something like a program like El Beit Beitek or so on. It was something like he was renting a place in the Maspiro on the Egyptian television for making some private sector program for Mahmoud Saad or so on. I think we have to repeat such kind of programs to make more and more invention ideas or something different ideas to bring back some stars from the media market and bring back some agencies and make partnerships between the private and public sector. All of these and administration in Maspiro, I think, have to make it better and better for the administration and manage all the sources. We have in Maspiro huge sources of people and huge sources of equipment. We have to manage it better and better.
So do you think that what we are witnessing now in the private media is the result of enjoying more freedom of speech?
I think some years ago, former Prime Minister Ahmed Nazif said a controversial sentence saying that we are early about the democracy, how to apply democracy in Egypt. It is early to apply it now. A lot of people were angry about these remarks. I think now some people are saying that it is now a very successful sentence, and we are very early about making democracy and practicing it. And I think it is not really 100% correct. Some of the society sectors and segments are ready for democracy and practicing it well, but more of them, much more, are not ready about that. They are early for them. But they have some louding voice, and they can shout, and they can cover all the people who can say something like quiet and calm voice to persuade, and using the convincing sentences or convincing voice. So we have to make some kind of round tables to discuss this such kind of issues about how media deal with the society and national security issues. They have announced it, as I said before, announced that they are making, or they are working for the interest of the national security. But now we have found out that they are not making that. So some people have to tell them what is good, what is not good for the national security. They don't know it well, I think. They have to know it well about the national security issues, have to be discussed or addressed on these screens.
Right, one of the important assignments of Egyptian media is to speak up for Egypt, represent Egypt in a better image, because lately the image of Egypt have been badly tarnished by international media, which is also looking for commercial interests, but also have political interests and is motivated. So, but they're doing it professionally, like like Al Jazeera, for example. So, from your own assessment as an expert, do you think that Egyptian media, the state-run media or the private-owned, are doing their best to be able to stand up to the challenges that they are meeting from the international media, or not yet?
I think there is some kind of international organization came here in Egypt, and some of them met President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to discuss some kind of how to use the image of Egypt in the media internally and outside the image. They are making some kind of studies how the people are using the media outlets and how they deal with this. They have numbers and international numbers about traffics and interests of people using the channels and so on. So the responsibility for the international organization is very different, actually. Even it is owned by the state or so, they have some code of ethics about what is right, what is not, what's wrong, about how to deal with the national security issues. I think in some kind of America or Britain, in Europe, sometimes they're very sensitive kind and critical issues. We have to deal it very critically, and some of them are making some kind of ceiling, red ceiling for something like that. They are not discussing about some issues, in particular issues for the national security interests. These all over the world. It's the freedom doesn't mean that everything is allowed and everything is addressed openly. Even the level of education for some society is better or higher, because it is sensitive and controversial and can make some anger at some time, particular time, controversial or critical time. So we learn these experiments and this experience from these countries and this organization. I think we have to study it well and address and discuss a round table about how the international organization deal with something like that. We have a lot of problems to help it not to despair and frustrate. So I think we have to discuss all of these issues rightly.
Okay, Mr. Nabil, one final question is, do you think that people are still counting on traditional media or are resorting now to social media, and how credible it is?
Theoretically, there's no media outlet or no media organization are trying to make it the other one or the previous one disappear. So with the print journalism, still the internet is there and still the radio is there. All of these media outlets will work with each other at the same time, but they have some segment different from sometime or so on. So we have a segment of the society using the social media, a lot of them from the youth and some of them from different kind of age. But still, at this time, we have to use all this kind of media through some ethics for the society and for the interest of the national security.
Okay, one final thing is the required developments to Egyptian media in general to address more important affairs rather than criticizing and mocking and these satirical programs that brings frustration only to Egyptians. How can they make more effort in addressing national projects and put more focus on achievements and mega projects and put more focus, yes, on our foreign policy that is witnessing great achievements. So what's your take on this?
I think with the private-owned channels and media outlets make some kind of new room for the industry, new private room for the industry of the media and so on. I think they have agreed upon some kind of profits and some kind of money, yes, how to use the advertisement segments for each other, not using some society and social issues and the interest of the people. Yes. I think this is a problem about that. So they have to discuss this because in these programs, talk show, in the evening and night shows and so on, they are depending on what is announced or broadcast on the social media, on Facebook and YouTube. Yes. They are using all of this to make it worse and worse impact on the society and on the people.
And to attract more audience. This is, yes, only the target.
This is their target about that. And after that, they are using yes, this media. We are trying to help the people and help society. I think it's better for them to discuss it about the success story for the youth, about the production, yes, and about how to help the people, to encourage them to make more and more success story, yes, for the society. I think it will be better for all.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Amir Nabil, Managing Editor of MENA or Middle East News Agency, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Thank you, Gina.
To end it here, Shri.
And now, our dear viewers, will go. And now, our dear viewers, this brings us to the end of today's edition of the Breakfast Show. Sheena Adil and Gina signing off. Thank you for being with us.